Hello and good evening, good morning, depending on where you are tuning in from. Welcome to Strong Start Sundays. I am your host, Dr. Rachel Edoho-Eket, and I am so excited to have you here tonight for this wonderful conversation all about AI. Now, I want you to come into the chat, let us know who you are, what your position is, and where you are joining us from tonight. Now, I have the honor of having one of the great voices in education, particularly around AI leadership, Dr. Kip Glazer. Dr. Glazer, thank you so much for joining us tonight. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes, and I have to say, we met each other last year on a podcast and a little webinar, which was a lot of fun with FETC. And then we had the pleasure of both being featured speakers this year in Orlando at FETC. And I think we just connected right away, definitely on the webinar. But finally, when you get to meet in person, that's just different. And so I loved meeting you in person. And then thank you for this full circle moment for coming on today to talk about such an important topic that really does impact the entire field of education. So I want to give a little introduction to you, Kip, and then I want to talk a little bit about my book, and then we're going to have Kip share about her book. So Dr. Kip Glazer is the principal of Mountain View High School in the home of Google's, what is it? Is it Silicon Valley, right?
Yes.
Yes, Mountain View in Silicon Valley. So, she has such a unique school in the fact that it's situated in this high technology area. And so I know that that influences your leadership quite a bit. And you have a new book out if you wanted to come on and tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm such a fan, Dr. Edoho-Eket, Rachel. You are such a strong, positive, student-centered leader, and also you've been so supportive and giving me tips and tricks of how to be a leader and a writer. So thank you so much. I'm very proud to be the principal of Mountain View High School in Mountain View, California, home of Google. And we serve so many students. We have 2,200 students, and many of them, their parents work in these high-tech companies that is designing the tools that we're using. And what I love about working with our students is that as much as they love technology, they also are thinking about, just like any other young people, a young person in this world, what is going to happen to them in the future, right? Like the school of today, and is it serving their interests 10 years down the road, and what is it going to look like? So I get to have lots of great conversations with my students, and I'm proud to say that I started this program called Mountain View High School Tech Internship Program, where students and I are engaged in different projects to see about how we can implement the tools that are being developed and being advanced constantly.
Yeah, I really love learning about your work, and I know we're going to get a little bit more into it, but I love the way that you center students in your work with AI. Our students already have such a great knowledge base, but part of our role as school leaders and as teachers and educators is to help build a strong foundation for how students can leverage and use AI in safe, ethical, and appropriate ways. So I love that you are leading that work out in California. So I want to lift up a couple people who are here. We have Wahaji joining us from Tunisia. We have Vincent Taylor. Hello, it's so great to see you joining us tonight. We have Bonvesh joining us. I'm not sure where you're coming from, but thank you for being here tonight. And we have Dr. Sonia Matthews from Maryland. Thank you so much, Sonia, for being here. So happy to see you. So I also want to lift up our book, Relational Intelligence, The Key Factor to Exceptional School Leadership. Dr. Johnson and I wrote this book specifically for school leaders, for ways that we can continue to support our teachers and staff in our buildings so that they want to stay in our buildings. We know this is a tough time in education. And so anything that we can do as leaders to help build strong relationships with our students, our staff, and our community is what we should be doing. So thank you in advance for those of you who have got your copy of this book. And if you haven't yet, please pick it up. In fact, Dr. Glazer, can you hold up your book once more? Ready to Lead with AI. Thank you. Both of our books are available on Amazon, and we will be sharing some more about them tonight as you're learning more. I have some new people who are tuning in. Constance Sherrod, thank you so much for tuning in tonight from Pearl, Mississippi. It is always amazing to see you. So again, tonight's episode is all about AI, and we want to start by thinking about how technology has a great way of connecting everyone, right? So I know just by looking at the people who are already watching tonight, I've connected with so many of you on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Twitter, just on lots of different places. And I know Dr. Glazer is the same. We've had that opportunity to connect offline, online, and now, and even in person. And so that's one of the beautiful things about technology. But at the same time, I like to tell people sometimes, though we're so interconnected, we can also often feel lonely. And I know, Dr. Glazer, as a leader, you and I talked about sometimes we feel that loneliness in the midst of our roles. And so that's why it's really important to have those strong relationships.
Yes, I completely agree. And I think there is sort of a little bit of the perception gap, right? Because you have so many followers on the social media platform, you appear to be more popular, more connected, and have better relationships. And there are days where I spend a whole day without talking to anybody in person. And I think that is dangerous. And I recently watched an episode of The Diary of CEO where the expert was talking about the danger of these earpods, where you are walking down the street. Back in the days, you would see people and you say hello and hi, and then the weak ties turn to strong ties. Except that nowadays, everybody seems to have their ears plugged and not even looking up, and they're all on their phone. And I think that's why leaders have to model having intentional conversations and making eye contacts. And I know you do that when you post about how you're talking to your students and how you are connecting. And I instantaneously noticed that about you when I met you in person. You made eye contact, you came up and you said hello, and we had great conversation, focused conversation. And I think we have to really be intentional, thoughtful, and model those skills.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Glazer. Definitely. And, all of those things we have to model, like you said, we have to show our students. And sometimes I know myself in reflection, I wasn't always like that. In fact, part of my blind spot with my multitasking was that I wasn't fully present. And that was something that I've had to consciously work on, especially like with my phone. You all know I have my phone like a grip all the time. But when I'm talking with someone, I have to put it on my desk out of arm's reach, because that keeps me accountable for being present in those conversations with people. So I love that you lifted that up. So Dr. Liz, I want to talk a little bit more about how we can help students with AI and what are some important things that students need to know and consider as they are using the tool. So let's talk a little bit about digital citizenship and why that's important for kids and our students and even our families as we are going into new territory with AI. What are some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I think for me, tools are tools. Humans are using it to do the task that we designed. And I think that understanding that AI is not a person, referring it as if it is a person, is extremely dangerous. We talk a lot about that. I've actually written many articles about the anthropomorphic tendency that we give, like, oh, somebody would actually say, I heard this story that my grandmother talks to Chad, meaning ChatGPT, as if it is a person. And those kind of lighthearted jokes are not actually appropriate. We have to be very seriously thinking that this is an inanimate object. Humans programmed it. It is a computer, not a person. So our students and I, we talk a lot about that. Also, not offloading your humanity or cognitive struggles, right? To be able to be human, you have to really understand that there is a difference between how you are using the tool versus completely offloading your thinking. So that is something that we talk a lot about.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you lifting that up because I do think we have a tendency sometimes to think once we have a typing relationship, sometimes it can feel as if the computer knows us very well and that we're friends or things like that. But I agree with you. We're just inputting information and we don't want to blur those lines. And Constance was agreeing with you. She's lifting up that AI as a tool and we must view it as such. And teach them how to do it ethically. And I'm an elementary school principal, and so a lot of what we talk about when we are looking at digital citizenship is asking students to consider a couple things. Number one, use it as a safe tool. So as you said, not uploading personal pictures of yourselves, because we know when we put our pictures into the stratosphere, we can't get those back. We can't get those images back, especially of children and things like that. And so we talk about, is it safe? We talk about, is it true, right? There's a lot of misinformation around that's happening in AI and beyond on the internet. And so we want students to develop skills where they are critical thinkers, where they can look at something and say, what is the source? Can I find another source that backs this source that is reliable? And another thing that we talk about is kind of that ethical processes. Should I share something if it's harmful? If it can hurt someone, then I need to think twice about resharing it. Is it a rumor? Is it true? So these are skills that we are teaching children in kindergarten through 5th grade, so that by the time they get to middle and high school with you, Dr. Glazer, they have a very strong foundation around the ethical use of AI. Is there anything else you wanted to add there?
Yes, and I just shared with you before the show started that I'm a grandmother. And I know parents and grandparents out there, your children's image being shared, you should be extremely careful. In fact, my daughter-in-law has asked me explicitly, please do not post any of our granddaughter's photo, and I respect that. And I think there has to be that boundary setting, as you said, uploading pictures, it's there forever. So then we have to be super careful, and we're not infringing on our children's rights by just indiscriminately posting things. Another thing that I really want to talk about is, as a high school principal, we're seeing deepfakes harming students, and kids don't understand, and they see these inappropriate photos, and then they share it. Now they're in the territory of violating education code, and I have to make a police report. So these things are very serious. And then the earlier they're being taught about what is appropriate to do and what is not appropriate to do, the better. That way we can start really thinking about how are we interacting with these tools in our school ecosystem.
Definitely. Thank you for bringing that up. We have some new people who have joined the call that I just want to lift up. We have Marilyn coming from Atlanta, Georgia. Hello, Marilyn. Great to see you. We have Maya all the way from Germany. Thank you for joining us tonight. We have Natasha Williams. Hello from Virginia. So good to see you. And we have Bindu coming from India. It's wonderful for you to be with us tonight. Thank you so much. And we have Gabriel coming from Buenos Aires, Argentina. So we are so glad that you're joining us from all over the world. This just makes us so very excited. And we know the importance of this conversation. Another thing, Dr. Glazer, I want to lift up with the students while we're talking about our wonderful students who are one day going to be the leaders of our world, is thinking about how we can have more producers and not just consuming of information. Now, I have high school children. Your children are adults. Like you said, you have grandchildren. And one of the things I always impress upon my kids are you consuming information or are you producing something? Now, we know, yes, every now and then we like to go on YouTube and listen to music and consume a good video. All of that is fine. but I really want us to think about how we can encourage our students to produce, how we can
Mm,
encourage our students to co-create, how we can make things, how we can add value to what we're doing, not just taking it all in. And I think that
mhm,
that's something that we can continue to impress upon our students as they are using AI, particularly. We've done a lesson with kids where we say, show us, we might input something about a traditional family. And typically, what we'll see is a man, a woman, and two kids. And so,
mhm,
what we ask students to say is, does this reflect your family? Does it look like your family? Give AI some more inputs until you are able to produce a family that looks like your family. And so we're teaching students to use their voices to help the model to become more diverse, to show more that looks like their particular family. And I think that that's a simple way to help students understand they just don't have to consume whatever the output, that initial output is from AI. They can help influence the model and produce and co-create something new. What do you think, Dr. Glazer, on that kind of producer versus consuming all the time?
I'm all in, and not only that, I wrote a dissertation that was 10 years ago, and I wish I had some of these creation tools because the dissertation that I wrote is to have our students create role playing games to improve literacy and numeracy. So students not only interacted with the text, but also based on that, they were able to create these characters that and then create game rules and they played it. And anytime they made an assertion, they had to go back to the text and say, what gave you that idea? And this entire process went from just text to conversation to games to now game pieces. So we were able to do 3D printing. We were able to expand our knowledge, and we even got to do very basic game coding. And imagine if I had all these tools that now we have available, how much more we can have these intentional conversations about not only literacy, numeracy, but artistic licenses, right? Like if you're taking someone else's picture and upload it to create your own, is that stealing? Is that not stealing? What, where is the boundary of creation? And I think all these very interesting and nuanced texture conversations, students want it, and students want to have someone like a teacher or a school leader to go, think about that. And when you do that, what is the impact, right? Because we have lots of sometimes conflict because we misunderstand intent, but also you have to acknowledge the impact. And I think we have a lot more things to talk about in that manner.
Yes, I love that. It just made me think as you were thinking about just how dynamic it is. There's
Mhm.
it's not a black and white answer. And I think sometimes we look for black and white answers, right? We're looking for a meme that's going to give us two sentences to explain a really complex issue. And we can't do that. And I think with AI, there are some complex conversations we need to
Mhm.
have as adults and as leaders
Yeah.
and as teachers, and complex conversations we need to have with students around
Mhm.
them. And I think it is the conversation that is the most important and critical part. And that speaks to that human piece. We can't have the computers have this conversation for us. We need to be leading this conversation. And as you were talking, Dr. Glazer, I was thinking about this. How do we prepare our teachers for some of these conversations?
Mhm.
Because we know there's different comfort levels with AI, with technology throughout our buildings. So, how can we meet teachers where they are in terms of supporting their development and our own development as school leaders before we are able to help and support our students?
Yeah, such a great question, and I think that's why you wrote your book, right? Because you have to have a level of relational intelligence to allow our teachers to actually mourn a little bit. And what do I mean by that? I think the old days of a teacher being the most learned person with the most knowledge is somewhat over, especially in high school, maybe not so much in elementary school, because students have so many other ways to get the discrete piece of information. In fact, some of our students are fact checking their teachers, right? Like they Google it or they ask the AI and go, oh, you said X, but actually when I fact checked it, you were wrong about that. I mean, I've seen that happen. So there is this little bit of my teachers, I feel like they feel responsible for delivering the highest quality content. And not being able to do that all the time accurately is going to have an impact. So
Mhm.
how do we support them? And I try to invite my teachers to say, you may not be the most knowledgeable person about that particular topic that your student fact checked you on, but you are the wisest person. You have the most life experience.
Mhm.
And you can understand the heartache that your student might be feeling when they experience disappointment, and lean into that because they really need that. Someone is seeing them and someone is encouraging them and someone is saying, I've been there and I can help you. So I think that we need to see that sort of transformation among our educators and school leaders to go, how do we show up as our fully emotionally intelligent adult in the room to really support not only just our students, but also the adults who are doing the really, really important work.
Yes, absolutely. And we have lots of comments in the chat about this, but yes, the discussion is so critical, Dr. Matthews. And I'm really glad that we're here having this conversation tonight because I see the high interest in it. And I think that what you just said, how teachers have the most wisdom in the room. We may not have
Mhm.
all the knowledge and information at any given time, but we have that lived experience where we can
Mhm.
really lean in and support kids. Really dovetails nicely into our last point about AI, and is that AI should be used to strengthen the relationships, the human relationships, because AI cannot replace a great teacher. AI cannot replace a great school administrator. AI can help support the work of teachers, it can support the work of school leaders, but we will never be replaced because of what Dr. Glazer just said. It is the human to human interaction that we do best, that AI
Mhm.
cannot do. It cannot replace that, right? It cannot replace a warm hug when a student needs it. It cannot replace that conversation of, I've been there, I've had this
Mhm.
experience. Here's something that helped me. What do you think you should do? What are your options? That's what kids need ultimately to be successful in life. And so I really like this conversation because I think it has evolved into this way of saying we don't need to have all the answers as the adults in the room, but what we do need to do is be learners. We have to be
Mhm.
constantly learning if we're going to keep up with all the advances that are happening. You know, technology just moves so quickly. And I think that's intimidating because, on one hand, we might think, okay, I've worked to master this part of this text tool. And then tomorrow we can turn around and have something totally new. And we know that's the truth in education. That's just the way the field is. And I think we all have to have that willingness, that openness to be lifelong learners so that, hey, if we make a mistake, what do we tell our kids? We tell our kids mistakes are part of learning. Don't we say that? Now, do we as adults truly feel that way? Do we model that? That's something for us to think about because that's something
Mhm.
I've had to learn as a recovering perfectionist. I don't love to make mistakes, but I'm more open now because I understand that means I'm trying and I'm learning something. What do you think, Dr. Glazer?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And in this very short amount of time in our conversation, you might wonder what's in your books. And I know, knowing you, you had tricks and tips and strategies in your book, just as in my book, I usually start each chapter with something that happened to me and then lessons learned, some of the research that is backing up the strategies that I used, and then recommendations and checklists. I really believe in practical strategies for school leaders to think about AI, and definitions matter. So I put in some of those things, and then frameworks matter. But at the end of the day, it is really your belief that every student walking through that door is capable of learning. And all educators want to do right by kids. It's just we have sometimes disagreement on how we go about it, and that's okay. The robust, diverse discussions of how do we get to the best solution is what makes public schools so amazing. And I invite all of you to join that conversation and say, I did this, I tried this, some worked, some didn't work, and here's a lesson. Let's share it so that we can all do better.
Yes, definitely. I love that connection between you learn something, I'm learning something. Let's come to the table. Really, that's why we do what we do, right? Dr. Glazer, you wrote the book because there's a need that you saw around, are we ready to lead with AI? What are some practical strategies that school leaders can use in our practice? And it's an excellent book. And I'm so excited for you and for the many school leaders that you're going to help. And in the same way, Dr. Johnson and I wrote our book because we saw a need, which is supporting our teachers and staff during a really challenging time so that we keep people in our buildings, and what are practical ways for us to support. And so I am just so grateful for this opportunity to connect with you, Dr. Glazer, and everyone who is listening, because these are the important conversations we need to be having right now. We need to be having these conversations because they are shaping the way that we lead and the way that our students learn. And ultimately, we need our students to learn as much as possible before they leave us and go out into the world, right? And continue to shape the world in their ways. Now, we have a lot of great comments. So I just want to run through and share a couple of them. Constance Sherrod has a nice one, but she's, being reflective that you were reluctant about using AI initially and intimidated and feeling overwhelmed. And I think that's such a great and honest point, Constance. You're not alone. You are not alone. And as leaders, we have to push ourselves. We have to push ourselves to learn more. And we have to show sometimes our level with our staff being that vulnerable, that vulnerability, and saying, I don't have all the answers. This is something I'm interested in learning alongside you, right? We can learn together. So thank you for lifting that up. We also have some new people who are joining us. We have Suleiman joining us. We have Orhan joining us from Turkey. Great to see you. I'm so glad that you like this conversation and that you find it very good. I love that. Thank you for, you're lifting up that we had great summaries. And we have some people who will be ordering your book, Dr. Glazer. So I'm really excited, Constance, for you to check out her book. I know you're going to enjoy it. And Suleiman is telling us he's from Ethiopia. So it is wonderful to see you, Suleiman. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I can't believe it, but I told you, Dr. Glazer, the 30 minutes goes fast, right? That's it. We have 2 minutes left in our conversation. And so I want to lift up a couple of things before we go. First of all, I want to remind you to pick up your copy of Relational Intelligence, the Key Factor to Exceptional School Leadership, and Ready to Lead with AI, a practical guide for school leaders. So these are 2 books that we believe will really help you in your practice. We also want to share, I want to invite you to come back and see me again on Sunday, March 15th at 7 p.m. I will be hosting Dr. Tangela Scales, and we're going to be talking about ways to delegate. The springtime is a very busy time for school leaders, and we want to be able to delegate and help build the capacity of everyone that we're serving in our building. So please join us back in about 2 weeks so we can talk about some effective ways to do that. And we have just a minute or so left. So I want to thank Dr. Glazer again for coming on tonight and having such a rich discussion. I hope you enjoyed it. Did you enjoy yourself?
It was so much fun. Now I feel like, we need another episode for me to tell you all about all the tools, how I'm using it, how we're implementing it so that we can help. So hopefully you will invite me back.
Yes, we're going to have a part 2. I love that idea. Yes, we will do that. Chris from New Jersey, so great to see you, Chris. I'm so glad that you came on tonight, and I'm glad that you enjoyed this conversation. I really appreciate you being here. And Dr. Sonia Matthews giving you another shout out. Thank you, Dr. Glazer. I want to thank Teacher Goals for this amazing opportunity and this wonderful platform to continue to reach out and connect with school leaders all across the world and educators. The work we do is so critically important to the lives of our students. And I just encourage you to keep working. Every day you are building, you're working hard on behalf of your students, and it makes a difference in their lives. You're working on behalf of your staff and their families. It makes a difference. So I'm wishing you a wonderful week ahead. Watch the replay if you missed us live. We hope you enjoy it and have a wonderful week ahead. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.